Good afternoon, and welcome to today's webinar, Fitness Technology, Making It Work for Your Clients, with Dr. Ted Vickey. This is presented as a part of ACSM's Virtual Summit Series. A few housekeeping things before we get started. This is a voice-over IP webinar, meaning it's totally web-based. If you experience audio difficulties or if the video begins to buffer, it's likely caused by the strength of your internet signal. If you are having issues, log off and log back on. If you do have a question during the webinar, please type it into the question area of the GoToWebinar navigation, and we'll get to as many as we can at the end of the presentation. We also encourage you to join the conversation about today's webinar on Twitter by using the hashtag ACSM Summit. Today's presenter, Dr. Ted Vickey, is founder and CEO of Fitwell LLC, a fitness and wellness disruptive health technology company serving clients around the world. In addition, Dr. Vickey is a Senior Advisor for Emerging Technologies at the American Council on Exercise and Professor of Kinesiology at Point Loma University, the University of San Francisco, and Tulane. Referred to as one of the most connected men in fitness, Dr. Vickey served as Executive Director of the White House Athletic Center under 3 presidents. You can watch his TED Talk on the future of wellness is now on his website at www.tedvickey.com. His undergraduate degree is exercise and sports science from Penn State University. His master's is in international business and entrepreneurship from the University of Limerick in Ireland. And his Ph.D. is in engineering and informatics from the National University of Ireland, Galway, where he studied mobile technology, social networking, and physical activity. It is with great pleasure that we present to you Dr. Ted Vickey.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for joining us today here on the webinar. A couple of other housekeeping. The hashtag at the bottom there, hashtag FOT, means friend of TED. So if you want to put that on your hashtag list as well, feel free to do that, and we'll make sure that we connect with you. Now, the first thing I want to talk about, the doctor of technology. Why is he wearing a headset with a wire to it? Well, there's a reason, and it's a reason why I think with technology and you using with your clients, it's important to think of. Let me share this with you. This is a headset from Aftershocks. Fantastic tool. It actually doesn't go in your ears. It goes onto the side of your ears, so you're not plugging your ear canal with anything, so you can hear cars behind you or what have you. But here's the thing. It happened to me. I went to work out, wanted to use these, but they were dead. So what did I do? I didn't work out. So one of the things with technology that you really want to remember is that you don't want to give people another excuse not to exercise. So that is why I keep that on my charger, and that is why I'm using a wired headset, because I don't want the battery to go out in the midst of the presentation. Now, I've given presentations around the world. It only happened once. It was in Greece where we lost power. So if we lose power, come on back. We'll reconvene and we will go from there. So hopefully you all can see my screen. Let's talk about fitness technology and how you can make it work for you and your clients. I also strongly invite you to connect with me on LinkedIn. Please put in there that we connected on this webinar, and I'll make sure that I'll accept that. And if you want this slide deck, and I'm going to talk about a lot of different tools and some things while we're talking on this, please write this down. tedv.link/yes please. tedv.link/yes please. I'll send you the slide deck. There's some other things that I'll send you. One of them being a survey on how personal trainers use technology. So a couple more seconds of that. tedv.link/yes please, and I will send you this entire slide deck. So you already heard who I am and what I do. And yes, I was at the White House for 11 years. So Tuesday was quite an interesting day for me, and all the phone calls and text messages and emails and Facebook messages that I've gotten. You're going to see in a second that I didn't sleep that night. So I am by education an exercise scientist, by experience an entrepreneur, and by passion a connector. So you might have heard that my PhD is in engineering. I can't draw a straight line, but the PhD is in engineering. But what I did was use the engineering degree and look at it from a big data perspective. Kevin Plank, the CEO of Under Armour, once said that data is the new oil, meaning if you have the data, you can really make a difference. And we're going to talk about fitness data and how using that data can help you train your clients. I said this in December of last year. In 2020, the disruption inside the fitness industry will be from outside the fitness industry. I didn't know about COVID at the time, but I think that statement is very, very true. But what I was talking about there was, if you look at the fitness industry, those that are being very disruptive now have come from outside the traditional fitness industry. You look at Fitbit, you look at Apple, you look at Peloton, you look at Mirror. They've all been companies outside the traditional fitness industry coming in. So to me, it's an indication that we need to start and continue to network, to build relationships with companies outside of our industry. So here's what we're going to talk about today: the current fitness technology stats, some academic research. I'm going to show you what I did, how fitness tech can help you as a personal trainer, some of the science behind the fitness and technology, and then at the end, some fitness tech trends. And I have a little slide deck of some of the apps and wearables that I have looked at and I find quite interesting. So let's start with this slide. This is my original Fitbit. I used Fitbit for a number of years. As you can see, I started in 2011. I've switched over to the Apple Watch, which is why the data doesn't look as accurate as you might think or hope. But so I've taken at that time 12 million steps. I've climbed 18,000 floors, and I've walked 5,400 miles. Okay. Now here's my sleep data. This is the morning after the election. You can see I went to bed at 1:45 a.m. Pacific time, so it was right during the midst of the election. I got up at 9:25. My sleep score on that day was a little better than normal. You can see my hours, and I was on target. And at the bottom, you can see my sleep patterns. And then I do use an iPhone, so I use Apple Health, and you can see my blood pressure was a little high. I did take it the day of the election. The sinus rhythm, the exercise bands, heart rate variability. So there's a lot of data out there floating around just for things that I do on a daily basis. But the question is, with all this data, so what? So what do you do with it? Well, that's what we're going to talk about. And that's what I hope to show you, that by understanding this data, you can help your clients live and move down their path to greater wellness by understanding this and then helping them interpret it. So we talked about my TED Talk. Please feel free to listen to that. I tell a story about the time I was working for the Canyon Ranch Institute and thought it was important to go out and to build this app for low-income communities, and realized that it's not really what we needed to do. So I don't want to give you the story, so check that out if you're interested. But one of the things I did talk about in that TED Talk was that in 1969, we put a man on the moon. One of the greatest accomplishments, I think, of human nature. The computer that we used to do that was this picture of NASA. Lots and lots of computers, probably the size of a classroom. But here's the interesting thing. This iPhone that I have in my hand is 1,000,000 times more powerful than that computer that we used to put a man on the moon. So think about that. The power that we used to put them on the moon and bring them back, we now carry in our pocket. So I think it's our generation's moonshot, if you will, to learn how to use mobile technologies to be able to allow and help our clients live better, healthier lives. Let's talk about my favorite word, and it's disruption. Now, a lot of people think disruption is a bad word. I don't believe that, because disruption is simply to cause something to be unable to continue in the normal way, to interrupt normal progress or activity. Let's talk about some examples. When I was a kid, I went to the mall, the Milk Creek Mall in Erie, Pennsylvania, and I spent my allowance buying records. Some of you are looking at this picture and saying, what are those square boxes? Those are records. Think about it now. As a kid, I had to buy an entire record if I wanted just one song. Now, iTunes, you can download a song in a matter of seconds. Let's look at the telephone industry. Long ago, to make a call, you had to get with an operator and they connected the call for you. Now I can call anywhere in the world with that smartphone. How about the banking industry? I remember as a lifeguard along the shores of Lake Erie, having to get a paper check. And I was excited the day I could put that paper check in an ATM machine. I didn't have to go see the cashier anymore, an ATM machine. I just deposited a check this morning using my app from the bank, and the funds were available within 2 hours. So think about outside of our industry, how technology has made a change, and how we within the fitness industry, I think, are a little hesitant, a little resistant on allowing that to happen. But I think, and we'll talk about it, there needed to be some sort of impetus to make that change. It was coming. It was probably 5 years down the road, but COVID has changed everything. COVID has brought what would have taken those 5 years, and it changed it to what I say happened in 5 months. Now, when I talk about disruptive health technology, I'm not talking about this. Yes, this is a real fitness center, a 24-hour fitness center here in San Diego, and they are taking an escalator up, looks like 20 flights or 20 stairs to go exercise. So this is not technology in my mind when it comes to health. Let me talk about a little bit about my research, because I think if you have an understanding of what I've done, you'll see some ways that you can use this technology. So I looked at 5 mobile fitness apps: Runkeeper, Edmundo, MyFitnessPal, Daily Mile, and Nike Plus. By the way, 2 of those, Edmundo and MyFitnessPal, Under Armour purchased a number of years ago for $750 million. Let that sink in. $750 million. I got a notification yesterday that Edmundo is going to be closing up shop at the end of the month, and MyFitnessPal was just sold here in November. So there's some questions about why Under Armour did that. We could talk about it in a different webinar, but still, these apps are very powerful. So one of the things that I found was that these apps had a function where you could share your workout online using Twitter. And at the time, Twitter had 140 characters, but look at how much information I could pull from that. So I knew what activity they did. It was running. I knew how far they went, 3.2 miles. I knew their time, 35 minutes. And I knew what app they used. Some of them I could also get in and see their more detail on their link, or on their workout rather, by looking at this specific link. Okay. So I collected 2.8 million tweets. That's a lot of tweets. I broke a lot of computers. 112,000 users. My N number was rather large, and some of my colleagues were rather surprised that I could have a number so big. And I went over 184 days, so a little bit more than half a year. The first thing I noticed was this. This is the number of tweets per day that each one of these apps was coming with. The first thing I saw here was it looks like a heart rate if you look at it. And if you look on all of them, it looked as though there was a peak at 1 week and then it declined and it came back up. Well, it worked out that on Thursdays, most of the activities were taking place. It went down on the weekend and came back up on Monday. And it was quite interesting that happened across all of those 5 apps. So I also did a word analysis, and I found 46 mentions of the S word, 22 craps, 40 dams, 51 of the F word, 1 bitch, 34 asses, 1 of which was fat. So people were also sharing comments about the exercises that they were doing. And we did a word analysis. We found that it was a ratio of 3 to 1, positive words of exercise than the negative words. So in addition to the data that I was collecting in terms of the exercise, I could actually tell what people were thinking right after the exercise was done. So one of the terms that you'll hear today is called disruptive health technologies. You know my passion for the word disruption and health technologies. Let me define it for you. I define it as wearable device or app that can collect, store, process, and share a person's health and fitness data. It could be an app like MyFitnessPal. It can be a wearable like a Fitbit or an Apple Watch. It could be a computer program. So that's the collective of what we're calling DHT. Let's talk a little bit about the stats, because I think understanding this, what's going on in terms of the statistics, are going to give you a greater understanding of how we can use this. So last year, wearables were named the #1 fitness trend by ACSM. I would probably venture to guess that it will be one of the top 3 again for 2021. And here's the top 10 list. But did you know that there are more people around the world that own a phone than own a toothbrush? There are more people on their phone that are brushing their teeth. Think about that for a moment. And those phones are within our reach 91% of the time. Some of you woke up to your phone today and immediately checked your email. Some of you might have gotten a call today on your phone. Some of you may have gotten on Facebook and communicated with your friends around the world. Our phones are within reach 24/7. If you haven't seen the movie Social Disruption, definitely take a look at Social Distraction. Take a look at it because you'll learn some things in that movie that are quite scary. And the average American checks their phones 12 minutes, every 12 minutes. So that means in the course of this 1 hour lecture, you're going to check your phone 4 times. I'm going to suggest that you put your phone a little bit further than our reach away because we're going to talk about some fun things. And most people download 25 apps, but we really only use 12. Right? So the statistic that was really shocking when I came up with, there are more users of fitness apps than there are members of health clubs around the world. More users of fitness apps than there are members of health clubs around the world. Think about that statistic. Fitness no longer takes place in a health center, a gym, a fitness center. Fitness is taking place all around the world in lots of different places. And the thing that really shows promise is that 73% of the users of these mobile fitness apps, of these wearables, say and believe that they're healthier because of their app. I don't know one other tool that can boast this kind of record. So 1 in 5 Americans owns a wearable. And we spend a lot of time on our top 3 apps. Think about it, your number 1 app, what is it? Might be your email. You probably use it a lot. Gallup is a great company doing a lot of great analysis, and this is their report in November of last year, talking about wearables, fitness trackers, and health apps. So as you can see here, 19%, that's where you get your 1 in 5 Americans, and they are using them. They're using it to track. 85% of current users believe that it was very to somewhat helpful. The same higher number for the health app users. So we've got a tool that people know, believe that is very helpful. It's a tool that we as personal trainers can use to connect with those potential clients. The wearing a fitness tracker and tracking of your health, you see that if you add that very helpful and somewhat helpful, you know, there's a significant amount of people that find benefit from those devices. So what are people wearing? 52% wear fitness monitors. I have my Apple Watch on, some of you probably do as well. Smart watches, smart clothing is one that's starting to come with a lot of the sensors built into the fibers. Smart contact lenses, I think a couple years ago, Google Glasses, they're starting to come back. And the one that's of quite interest is health tattoos. There are tattoos, temporary tattoos that people are putting on their skin that are taking a lot of different readings, skin temperature, sweat values from these health tattoos. So I believe every generation will interact with fitness technology, but not all generations will interact the same way, right? So think about it. My 85-year-old dad in Erie, Pennsylvania is going to use his mobile phone a lot differently than I am, or differently than my niece will. In 2015, the American Council on Exercise did a fitness tech trends, and it came up with some interesting things. 71% of trainers own a wearable. 61% were thinking of doing one. 72% reported clients are asking for insight and feedback. Think about your own business. Are your clients asking you about wearables and apps? My guess is the answer is yes. A lot of trainers, 86% as a matter of fact, want a single data platform that'll help manage the fitness data. That's one of the problems with the data silo, right? So you've got your Fitbit data, Apple data, your Withings data, and you've got to log into 3 different accounts to be able to see that data. So one of the new trends is coming up with that platform. And then people, trainers rather, 75% wanted to run fitness challenges using a wearable or activity device. Makes total sense. And 74% would sell devices, which is actually a telling sign. It's another revenue source for you as a personal trainer. You're going to hear me say that the traditional model of personal training is broken. We can no longer trade time for money. We've got to find other alternatives for revenue. And this is one way that you could do that. So as an academic, I decided to redo that survey. So in the link that I gave you, the tedv.link / yes, please, there's an opportunity for you to take this survey. And I would strongly ask you to do that, because the more we know about how trainers use technology, the better off we can be. So what percentage of your business revenue is from your own personal training business? So we have before COVID and then after COVID. And you can see that before COVID, 64% of people, only 10% of their revenue was coming from personal training. That number now is increasing, meaning more personal training sessions are taking place. This was a little bit of a shock. 67% of personal trainers are Apple users. The US tends to trend Apple heavy, but if you look at across the world, Google platform and other platforms tend to be very popular as well. I was giving a talk once and a personal trainer asked, I want to use my iPhone to communicate with other iPhone users. And I said, that's a great idea, but you're also limiting what you're doing, right? Because if you only focus on people with the iPhones, what about those that are using other platforms? So keep that in mind when you come up with an idea. You want it to be platform agnostic, meaning it can be used across the board. Looked at the more popular wearables. This makes sense. Apple Watch, Fitbit, Garmin, and Polar. And then the apps, MyFitnessPal, Apple Health, Strava, and Nike. We also asked and found out that 36% don't think that they have, personal trainers don't think they have the tools needed to be able to run an online business. So if you're there thinking, I don't know what to do, you're in good company. We're going to help you fix that. Because of COVID, 81% of personal trainers surveyed think that technology is more important now because of it. And the idea of being fitness entrepreneurs, starting an own business is increasing. 62% of those surveyed now want to start their own fitness business because of COVID. That makes sense. This was a shock to me. We asked about websites, and 46% of personal trainers don't have a website. Think about that. 46% of personal trainers don't have a place online where people are coming and learning about the services. So I think that's a number that I'm really going to start tracking a little bit, have more, and hopefully find ways to help personal trainers, because there's some really simple ways that you can avoid that. So let's talk about some use cases with disruptive health technologies. This is one from a friend of mine, Sarah Kunkel, was working at Fitbit at the time. So she tweeted this, that there was an earthquake at 2:30 in the morning. And if you look at her data, look at that at 2:30 in the morning. She woke up because of the earthquake. So there are unintended consequences of some of the things that we're looking at when it comes to using technologies. Here's another one, Twitter and the flu. Arizona State has a fantastic office that are looking at how flu mentions on Twitter are affecting the general population. Here's how they do it. So they are tracking the number of mentions of flu on Twitter. Then they are cleaning the data, making sure that the keywords are about actually having the flu, not about questions about the flu. And then they geotag it, meaning they know where the tweet is coming from, so they know the location. And with that, they are using mathematical models that are going to predict the flu trends and then come up with a map. And the map is showing the potential possible future outbreaks of the flu within the next week. Now, we looked at, well, this is a direct graph from them. The bottom line, the red line, is from CDC. This talk was supposed to be at the ACSM Fitness Summit back in March. Before that, I started to feel a little bit unwell, so I went in and I got tested, and it was they did the flu test. And I said, how do you notify the CDC of these numbers? I was shocked by the answer. The nurse said, we download a PDF form, we fill it out by hand, and then we fax it back to the CDC. They still use fax. So this makes total sense that there are going to be more people talking online about the flu than what the CDC knows about. Those are reported cases, okay? There's also another study, Dr. Eric Topol here in San Diego, a fantastic researcher when it comes to mobile health, has an app called Detect. So one of the things that they're doing is that there are certain things that happen before getting COVID that can be tracked using a wearable. One of them is temperature. The other one is heart rate. So here's my data from October. Take a look at October 12th. My sleeping heart rate was, well, resting heart rate, 50s. This was sleeping, by the way. low 60s. On the 12th, it was 72. And I started to feel a little ill on that day. So there's a lot of data that's going on that can be used for different things. Did you know that the Apple Watch has as an app now that monitors you washing your hands? Here's the other neat thing about it is you can turn on your location settings. So when you come home from being outside, if you don't wash your hands within minutes of returning, it'll send you a prompt saying, go wash your hands. So we're finding ways to use technology to actually become healthier and not get sick. So I want to share a quick story with you. On May 8th, 2020, I was playing golf. The first time I was out playing golf since COVID, and it was a walking course because we weren't allowed to use carts. And on the third hole, I didn't feel so well. So being a scientist and having my Apple Watch on, the first thing I did was I took my EKG. And it came back inconclusive, which tells me that it really means that something bad is going on, but Apple doesn't want to say you're having a potential heart attack. So I took it again, and I didn't feel any better. And what I found was my heart rate went from 80 to about 85, well, 80 beats per minute, up to about 85% of my max heart rate in a matter of seconds. So I knew something was going on. Went to the hospital. Turns out I didn't have a heart attack, and this is the actual EKG that I had, and I gave it to the emergency room physician. He was shocked, amazed that I could have taken this on the midst of a golf course. But what really happened was I had a problem with medication. This is a service from Amazon called PillPack, and what I found out was the month before they had changed some medications that we weren't aware of, and then the following month, 3 days before this happened, I went cold turkey. And it was to the point where PC Magazine actually contacted me, and we talked about this challenge, because this is something that, technology is great, and sometimes we forget about it. And imagine if it would have happened to my dad, he probably wouldn't have been able to figure out what was going on. So while technology is great, there are also some unintended consequences that we do need to keep an eye out for. As you know, or may not know, that Google has purchased Fitbit. Rumor is it's going to finish by the end of the year. So that is, for some people, a concern, because now Google will know certain data about your fitness. And Google Health has slowly and quietly been building an office of 500 employees where they're just looking at different aspects of mobile health. There's some apps out there that we as personal trainers, when it comes to proper form, here's one by Kaya Health that they're actually doing a perfect squat challenge. Think about it. So now you're not meeting your clients face to face. How are you ensuring that they are doing the exercises the way they should? This is a company that I've been working with out of Singapore called PewFit, where they use the camera, taking a picture, a video of a person doing some sort of exercise. For this example, it's a squat, and then using artificial intelligence, reporting back to the person if they're doing the squat the proper way. So there are now ways that you don't need to be in a fitness center or in a gym to be able to make sure that people are doing the exercise the proper way. So how can tech help you? Well, think about it. Why does a person hire a personal trainer? I think there are 4 reasons: motivation, accountability, support, and expertise. And I'm here to suggest to you today that all 4 of these can be done using a mobile phone. Now, it may not yet be as personal as the in-person can be. And I was asked once if fitness technology will ever remove the need for a personal trainer. And my reply was, what's the word before trainer? It's personal, right? So if you are nothing more than a person that's changing the weights on a weight stack for your clients, then you probably do need to be replaced. But the shift of technology is going to open up more career paths, open up more opportunities for different types of personal trainers. So these 4 aspects, if it can all be enhanced by technology. So there was a study out by Global Web Index, and looked at healthcare wearable owners and their devices. Step counters, obviously one of the higher ones, but look at some of the other things that people are doing. Sleep, by the way, is one of the things that I'm seeing is more and more people are starting to track, because if you aren't sleeping well, you're not getting a good workout the next day. 87% of the people are comfortable sharing their data, their wearable data with their doctors. Think about that. They're willing to share it. 51% say that they feel more control in their health by using this. And 48% are saying that it helps me manage my fitness and body weight. Folks, people are using this technology. And one of the things that I think we're not doing a good enough job is to connecting those that are using this fitness data on their own with personal trainers that can interpret that for them. This is an interesting statistic I want to throw out to you. So have you ever thought about the difference between a million, a billion, and a trillion? Well, think about it in terms of seconds. So 100 seconds is 1.6 minutes. 1,000 seconds is 16 minutes. 10,000 seconds, 2.7 hours. 100,000, 1.2 days. Now here's where it gets interesting. 1 million seconds is 11.5 days. 1 million seconds, 11.5 days. What do you think a billion is? What's a billion? Think about it right now. It's 32 years. That's a big difference. How about a trillion? 31,000 years. So look at the difference between a million, billion, and trillion. I use this in class, and it really is an eye-opener when it comes to thinking about data points when we get into some of those big numbers. When I was at the White House, I asked one of my members, what does the government use in terms of rounding errors for budgets? And they said 1 million. I said, I'd love to be able to have your rounding error to run my fitness center. Let's look at this, gym members. Remember I said 183 million worldwide gym members, right? And then Under Armour came out, 260 million users around the world. So there are more users of the one app, Under Armour, than there are of total gym members in the world. Well, what if we added wearables and apps to this? How much more do you think there'd be? Well, a lot more. Look at that. 1.3 billion people using apps and wearables. Folks, people are exercising outside the gyms more and more. They don't need to go into a gym anymore. Now, if you are a gym owner, great, you're still gonna have people coming there, but I strongly suggest that you find ways to connect with people outside your 4 physical walls, right? Because if they're coming in, they're training with you 1-2 days a week, what are they doing the other 6 or 7 days, 5 or 6 days? Technology can help you stay connected with them when they're not with you. So if we look at this, fitness members with 5.8 years, Under Armour 8.2, and then apps and wearables 43 years. This is if we look at those numbers with the little metric I showed you before. So how can tech help? How's the science behind fitness tech? Well, I think there's 3 things you need to look for. It needs to be habit forming, social motivation, and goal reinforcement. So in my Ph.D. research, we found people commenting to each other on Twitter about personal bests. And we found that communication, that what I call a virtual high five, was equally as important as if it was me talking to Lee Jordan in Florida, face to face, right? So even comments online from somebody that you don't know that says, great job on getting your personal best, still makes a big difference. So one of the things people say when it comes to wearables is, well, there's no long-term use. And this is you look at it from 2013, and it's true. Think about it. People start with getting a new device, and they're all excited, and then the curve starts to go down. 24 months later, it's less than 50%. What does this also look like to you? I think it looks like fitness center usage. Big spike in January, and throughout the year it goes down. But if you take personal training and add a wearable, that's where you're going to see the client success. So you're going to get, if you're just a personal trainer and you're not using wearables, yeah, there's a lot of success potential. But if you add the wearable piece to it, now we're talking about real client success. So I did an analysis, and you think about it. Well, people say, well, if you want to decrease your blood pressure, well, then you should start exercising. Well, true, but what's the other way you can decrease blood pressure? Well, you take a pill. Did you know that 30% of pills are never filled? And that 50% aren't taken as prescribed. So those naysayers that are saying, well, wearables, you see a decrease over time. Here's some information for you folks. Even the pill industry isn't working as well as we would want it to work. One of the former Sentinels, C. Everett Koop, said drugs don't work in patients who don't take them. And I added, fitness doesn't work in those who don't exercise. right? And using technology, fitness, disruptive health technology can help our clients do that. Second thing is accuracy. Well, how accurate is my Apple Watch when it comes to steps? Well, here's something I wanted to talk about. You have a scale at home, you have a scale when you go to the doctor's office, and you have a scale at the gym. Which one's right? Which one is right? When I ask this in live workshops, people say the one I weigh less in, right? Well, of course. But think about it. If something is off, it's going to be off over and over and over again. So we're not looking at that precise number. We're looking at the trends over time. So if you're 5% off, chances are you're going to be 5% off over the long haul. So it's not it is important, right? But a lot of these, we're trying to get people off the couch and get them exercising, right? So if the action is a little bit off, I think it's okay. Here's a device. I speak at the Consumer Electronics Show. It's a company out of Russia. And look at this. They claim that they're the only smart band that tracks calorie intake, body hydration, and stress levels automatically. There's a little sensor on the watch that looks at your blood flow through the wrist. And they claim they could do a lot of things, and they're selling these devices. They did a study, and I asked them that it was done in I think St. Petersburg, and looked at one person and found a lot of and made a lot of claims off of that. So there are companies out there that unfortunately aren't as scientifically sound as we would want them to be. So when you're out there talking about fitness technology, my advice is try it yourself. Make sure it works. Do some research. If you look at a lot of the certification organizations, there's more and more talk about what these devices do. So this one says through skin, 89% accuracy. Well, after 3 years of bugging them, they finally gave me a device and I tried it. Did it work? I drank a Coca-Cola and it did show a spike, and then slowly over time it went down. But I'm not quite sold on it yet. So we'll see how this goes. One of the other things people talk about is fashion versus function. Well, I don't want to wear a wearable because it makes me look silly, right? So 15% prior and 15% current say that. But then also people are saying it can be stylish too, right? So previously 43% said it was stylish. Now that number has gone up. When wearables first came out, I had one of these called a body bug. You put it on your arm, right? This, and it tracks your steps, and it was not a very good looking device, but it worked. Now look at the Apple Watch. It's sleek, it's sexy, it's something that people would want to use, right? So the fashion now is becoming more and more important, and then privacy. This is one of the things that people are concerned about. But Gary Vaynerchuk talked about this. We cry more about privacy, but every day we prove with our actions that we really don't care, right? We're sharing more information online than you probably think you are. And I'm going to show you a couple examples how that works. Remember my Edmundo on Twitter? Take a look at this. This was in Galway, Ireland. If you look at the map on the right, you see those little music symbols? I could tell what music a person was listening to throughout their route. I could see their heart rate. I knew what time they left their house. I knew what time they came back. And my mom always said, when you leave the house, turn a light on so people think you're home. We're publishing this. We're telling people that we're out, and we're creatures of habit, which means we're probably taking the same route when we do this, right? So if you're going to use technology, make sure you know what is being shared, because it can be problematic. This was, want to get it right, but one of the apps was being used by soldiers in the Middle East. And if you look at some of the apps, you get heat maps, right? So if you look at the heat maps in New York City, they're totally dark because lots and lots of people are using the same route. But the bad guys were able to figure out where this secret base was because the soldiers were running around the base and they could actually see the different parts of the base. Kind of scary. This was Strava, by the way. And then it got worse because Polar was unfortunately revealing data, not on purpose, but people were sharing their workouts where the U.S. military not only worked, but where they lived, right? So the question becomes, who should be interpreting this data? Well, 66% of people asked want someone, a health expert, to help them understand this data and to make behaviors to respond to it. So who should interpret it? 75% say physicians, 79% say health coaches and personal trainers. And here's the key, they're willing to pay for it. They're willing to pay for someone to take all this data and help them understand it. Another possible revenue source for you as a personal trainer. So it was asked, would you exchange collected health data with a health insurer for a reward? Think about it. They're going to get some reward back by sharing the data. 60% said they would. That's higher than automobile and home and life insurance, by the way. Would you be interested in learning more about wearables from your insurance provider? Yeah, it makes sense. 90% said yes. Would you switch health plans if a wearable was provided? 58% said yes. Because people are taking wearables, they're looking at the claims data, and they're creating rewards for healthy behaviors. Now, there are also some things where you need to be careful of. So when I was preparing this talk, I went and looked at the #1 apps that were downloaded that were free, paid, and top grossing. And Calm was on there, and MyFitnessPal, and Fitbit, Headspace, Couch to 5K, good app. Over here on the top grossing ones, you see the ones in yellow. But this one I read stood out to me. I never heard of it. It was called Step Younger. I said, okay, I study these things. I'm going to download it and try it. So here's the page. Looks nice, right? It's a professional looking website. I downloaded it. I looked at the reviews. That's the first thing I always do. I look at reviews to see what people are saying. Now look at this, 4.8 out of 5. But some started to look kind of fishy. There were 2,300 ratings, and the app had just been out a month. That seemed a little too high for me, so I did a little more digging. So I downloaded the app, and it asks you for your goals and it tracks your steps. Then it said it's going to monitor your blood pressure and heart rate using your phone. Now, folks, I don't know about you, but I don't think that there's a way yet to be able to take blood pressure by putting your finger on the camera of a phone. They say you can do it with heart rate. They're becoming more accurate, but blood pressure, I don't think so. So now my detector's really going off. Something's not quite right. And then I noticed, it's a free version. They got to make money, so they're doing ads. Makes sense. It's the freemium model. But then I started using the app, and you need to check in every day, and it gave you energy points, right? So every day you checked in, you got more points. But if you didn't have enough points, then it gave you a way to earn more points. Okay? Starting to think, this isn't really a fitness app. Well, then it started giving you ways to download other apps that you could bet money on. And I totally said, this is a scam. This is not a good website, not a good app. So I actually wrote a post on it saying this app was worthless, and there's no academic science behind the app, and they're probably using to steal your data. And once you know it, that they actually responded to me, the company, with a canned letter saying that they weren't stealing the data, but I don't believe them. So be careful. There are a lot of apps out there that promise one thing, but they're giving you something different. So just do your homework. Have the patience to learn what it is that is being actually tracked and shared. So let's look at some trends. Virtual health and fitness alternatives were surge. COVID has totally disrupted our industry, right? I talked about it a little bit earlier, but there are new alternatives that are still happening now. Peloton, some people question, well, are they getting people to exercise? Yes. I did a little test. They list all the instructors on the Peloton website. I went through and I used the service to find out if they were all certified personal trainers. I think at the time there were 30 on the website. 2 were certified personal trainers. So unfortunately, fitness isn't about knowledge to some people. It's about looking the part and being motivational. So that's something that's really starting to happen now, and keep an eye on it, because it's something that we're going to have to learn how to fight. Mirror by Lululemon, was just purchased recently. I think there's some great opportunities here as a potential personal trainer, being that person in the mirror. But there's some people that just took the Skype and they were doing Pilates workouts on Skype. This was a class that someone put together to teach a trainer how to do that. You've heard me say before that the business model needs to change, the personal training model, where you trade time for money. It's not sustainable. We've got to find ways to change that, and using technology can allow you to do that, because you can train more people and charge them less, and at the end, at the month, you're going to make a lot more money. And I've got a course coming out that'll help you teach that. And then the use of big data. So I sat back, we did some work at the New York Stock Exchange. I went in there, and all of these financial people have computer screens, and they're looking at stocks. And if it's buy, it's green. If it's sell, it's red. And I said, why can't we have the same system for personal trainers, for data, right? So we need to be health hubs, not health clubs. We need to pull in this data as trainers, as health clubs, as gyms, take the data, analyze it, and give it back to our clients. Because you can send out little notifications to remind them to be mindful, remind them to drink more water, remind them to exercise based on the data that you're seeing that they're doing. This is a website called Trainerize. I've worked with them in the past, and they've sponsored a couple of my talks, so thank you, Trainerize, for that. But it's a platform that allows a trainer to get on there and to track their clients' progress. Now, I mentioned earlier that a lot of this is in data silos, right? Meaning the Fitbit data is one silo, the Apple Health is in another, and your Withings data is in a third. So there needs to be a way to bring that together. Well, I've come up with a possibility, and we're piloting this now as a beta test. But what this platform does, the Health Champion platform, pulls in data from all the different sources, and we start off with steps. So going back to that model that I showed you from New York Stock Exchange, you set a goal for your clients. So the top one here, say it's 5,000 steps, and it'll automatically color code the client. If they're on track, if they're 75% towards their goal, it's green. If it gets below 75%, 50 to 75%, it turns yellow, meaning you need to start watching out for this person. Maybe send them an email. But if they're less than 50%, it turns red, which means you need to call the client and you need to see what's going on. Something might be up, right? So this is a way that you can use a dashboard, see the data, and then use it. So we're planning on doing other things. You've got weight, blood. We're gonna do blood pressure and some other things. So keep in contact with me and see when this comes out, because we're gonna need some beta testers to help it. So I'm gonna take a breath. I'm gonna take a drink of my water with my smart bottle, by the way. You may have seen it. This is called Hydrate. I don't get paid by them, by the way, but there's a little sensor down here, and it monitors the amount of water that I drink during the day. I'm going to show you here in a second what it does with that data. So I've gone through and I created this little fitness tech toolbox. Some of the apps and wearables I see out there that are interesting, and probably things that you might want to try out yourself. Because I'm a Star Trek geek, right? I wanted to look for that tricorder that could do this. This was a device called Scandu that was getting to that point where you would take temperature, blood pressure, and heart rate with that sensor just on your forehead. Fortunately, it didn't last, and the FDA didn't approve it. So still a couple years too soon, but people are thinking about it. People are starting to design it. So the first one is an app called YouFood Food Journal. I mentioned earlier that with the Canyon Ranch Institute, we were going into poor congressional districts in the US and wanting to find ways to use technology to do it. And we were going to create a fancy app that would help a person when it came to food, right? So these are people making less than, I think it was $20,000 a year, a family of four, right? But what we found was that they don't need, or they don't want to be able to know how many micronutrients or fat, or they needed something on a higher level. So we came up with just simply taking a picture of the food and then sharing that information with the nutritionist. So the nutritionist sit there and say, okay, I suggest that you have more protein, less fats, less white rice, use brown rice, right? So a simple food journal can do that for you. So $2,000, that's the website for you. The website will be up in the top blue there. So take a look at it. It might be a way for you to engage with your clients. PlushCare. It is a telehealth service. I've been following them for a while, and I've used them 3 times in COVID, where you just log on and click a button. You connect with a physician who can do a lot of things that you really don't need to be in person with. So they were the ones that ordered my my COVID test to go get tested for. So PlushCare, keep an eye out for it, because I think there's going to be future possible partnerships down the road with these sorts of companies where they have questions. People are going to have questions on exercise, and they're going to need people, resources to be able to send those people to. So if you're a health coach, personal trainer, start connecting with some of these companies. Withings, it's a scale that I use. One of the things I like about it is it tweets your weight. So every morning it can tweet your weight. Now, for some people, that's motivation. For some people, it's kind of scary. But it also then connects back into that dashboard I showed you. So you can start monitoring people from their home. We know that people aren't always honest when it comes to their body weight. So here's a way where in the privacy of their bathroom or at home, they can take those measurements and share them with you as a personal trainer. This is the Hydrate Spark. This is the water bottle I was telling you about. I had kidney stones a couple of months ago, and my doctor wanted me to drink more water, so I increased this. It flashes a color when it's time for me to drink based on my goal, but it also knows my location, the weather, the activity that I've done. So if I've exercised, it knows I need to drink more water, and it'll change my goal based on that. So that's a smart water bottle. Hydrate Spark. Diet Bet. This was quite interesting, right? Everyone puts in some money, and they have two different goals. One is a 4-week program, one is a 6-month program. And if you reach your goal, you share the pot of the money. If you don't reach the goal, you get nothing. So a little way to motivate people. So if you're a personal trainer, you want to do this with a group of your clients, might be a nice way to keep them motivated and have fun at the same time. U8, I mentioned my friend Lee Jordan earlier. This is a company he's been working with about feeling great about what you ate. So if you're interested more, a little bit about what you ate and how it makes you feel, it's a little bit more of a mindful food diary app. Take a look at u8.com. Achievement. This is a company that actually pays you to be healthy. It's not a lot of money, but you get $10 for every 10,000 points. So I've connected all of my wearable devices into this, and they are taking that data, and what are they doing with it? Well, you know, they're using it, they're anonymizing the data, and then having these big sources of data from thousands of people across the country, tens of thousands of people. They're sharing that information and with folks that are using that big data. So that's how they're making their money. But I make enough every year to be able to buy my books on Amazon. So I take Amazon gift cards, and I get about $200 a year just by doing this. I do nothing else other than setting it. And you can even set it so if you post a health tweet, it'll give you 6 points. Okay, so achievement.com. Sleepwatch app. I showed you in one of my first slides the data from my sleeping habits. It's part of my Apple Fitness Watch, one of the apps on there. I've done a lot of research when it comes to sleep and different apps to use. This is one I really like. So if you're interested about sleep, I showed you the slide a little bit earlier of a lot of the data points that you can look at. This is one I've looked at it. I'm putting it out here because I want to get some of my friends of TED to take a look at it. But it's an ECG-based personal trainer. So based on your heart rate variability, it will tell you if you're ready to exercise, and it'll also prescribe potential types of exercises, cardio or strength, based on your heart rate variability. So if you try this out, try it and let me know how you like it. I talked earlier about these patches that are out there. Gatorade is coming out with one. You see on this player's forearm there, a patch that is starting to monitor sweat and different things. So we're actually seeing some that are actually being injected into a body. I've seen one where you just wear it on your arm, but it has a needle in it that is actually pulling data from your bloodstream. Kind of scary, but kind of interesting at the same time. This one is, they were one of my talks for the Consumer Electronics Show is DNA Fit. So based on your DNA profile, 23andMe and Ancestry.com, they take that type of data and they tell you what type of exercise you would be more apt to do. I've tried it. It was interesting. But here's the thing that's amazing to me. Over 75,000 sold at $189. I did the math. That's $14 million that this company is pulling in doing that. So if you're a personal trainer and you have clients that are looking at doing this, I'm not saying to go out and to sell this, but you could become an affiliate for it. But even understanding it and sharing this information with your clients, saying, is this a good product, yes or no, and talking about it. You have the expertise to know if this is good or not. So don't be afraid to share that information. This is one that I saw at the Consumer Electronics Show. This is the closest thing to my Star Trek gadget that I've ever seen. It's you push a laser button and point it at the food, and it tells you what food it is. And I thought this is crazy. And they invited me into their I had to sign an NDA at the time and come into this secure room. And I brought my own piece of fruit because I didn't want to, you can set those things up and make them, oh, hey, look, this is an apple. I brought an orange and I scanned the orange and it said it was an orange. So the science is it says that foods give off certain pheromones, and the sensor was able to track those pheromones. Is it going to work? I don't know, but it was quite interesting. So I put this on here too for you as one of those future things that you can keep an eye out for. So I want to close with a couple of things. Don't be afraid of technology. It's here, it's not going away. But if you learn how to adapt it and learn how to use it, you could be even more successful than you are today. Fitness tech can lead to better client engagement. I've had dozens of personal trainers over the years. You know how many of those are still in contact with me? One. So I think we as personal trainers need to be better at the business side of fitness. There's nothing wrong with reaching out to former clients, keeping them engaged, showing them more information about it, because it's easier for them to come back. It's easier to keep a client than it is to find a new one, but also to bring an older client back, older, not age-wise, but a former client. So keep in contact with them. It's important. And then become a health hub, not a health club, right? I've showed you how some of this data is out there. There are a lot of people using it, a lot of people that are confused by the data. Think about the financial industry market, right? So there are people that are still going to do their taxes with a CPA. People are going to do it on their own. But look at the business in the middle between the two, like H&R Block, that take the people's data and they do it for you. I think that there's an opportunity there for us as personal trainers to do the same thing in our market. So here's what we've gone over today. And I want to end it with saying this, that you can't manage what you can't measure, right? So think about that as you move forward with trying some of these personal training wearable devices, apps. When you can measure it, you can improve it. So with that, I will open up to any questions.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Vickey. We've got a few questions in, and I feel like they're probably going to continue rolling in. First off, we definitely had some folks who joined us late, so can you review that link where they can download the slides?
Sure. And why don't you key up the next question as I do that?
All right. Next question is, do you think that there's an expectation that personal training service costs would be less for data analysis and monitoring for in-person sessions? This person says that they're unsure how to price different services, whether it's in-person versus virtual.
I think there is. I mean, here's the slide, by the way. I'll leave that up. Think about how group exercise and boot camps really took off, right? If you think about it, it's nothing more than, well, I don't want to say it's nothing more, but it's a personal trainer reaching more people, paying less, right? So what's your hourly rate as a personal trainer? Let's say $50, because I went to Penn State, my math isn't that good. So $50, right? For one client. Well, that means if I want to make the same amount of money, I could get 5 people paying 10, or I could get 10 people paying 5, right? So the numbers, there's going to be a point where you can control what you're doing with all of this data. I think that there's going to be a way where you still have the personal, I call it the Spotify model of personal training, right? So they're paying a monthly subscription fee, and of that subscription fee, they're getting one-on-one time with you. It might be face-to-face, it might be over Zoom or Skype or whatever, but you're continuously monitoring your clients, and you're sending them information however they want. They might want it on text, they might want an email, they might want a phone call, right? But ask it how they want to do that, and you can build a system around that. I think it would be a lot easier to scale a business, because right now, how can you make more money as a personal trainer? Either work more, which I don't think any of us want to do, or charge more money for it. And in this world now with COVID, where a lot of these things are being cut out, if you can give an opportunity for a person to continue to exercise at a lower cost, you can reach more people. So whoever wrote the question, feel free to send me a note on Twitter or send me an email. And I'd love to talk a little bit more about it, because that Spotify model of personal training, I think, is really going to take off.
All right, next question. Someone wants to know what you can share about First Beat technology.
First Beat technology. I worked. They were part of my Consumer Electronics Show presentation a couple of years ago. On a high level, it's a heart rate monitoring company, and so it's the technology that goes into a lot of these devices. I've looked at them. I think they're very good. So if you're interested, we can send a link out to First Beat. But I know that they're European, so I don't know. I want to say Scandinavian or something, but good company. I really like them. So take a look if you're interested in some of that more advanced type of heart rate monitoring.
All right, so we're coming up on our time. We'll ask one more question. So we definitely have an international audience here today, and someone is wondering about potential opportunities to integrate health technology in poorer countries where maybe not as much of the population can afford to buy individual technology products.
Oh, absolutely. You know, one of the things that we looked at when we were looking at working with the low income communities here in the States, the first question I asked was, well, do they even have smartphones? Because here we are trying to create these interventions using the smartphones, and what we found was that low income communities do have the smartphones. A lot of the government agencies are providing them for them. But what we found was that they use smartphones differently than you and I do, meaning one family might use a smartphone. So whoever needs the phone that day is going to have it for that day. So if you're doing targeted messages to them, understand that you're going to be reaching more than just that one person. We also found that they may have a smartphone, but they're paying for their data plan every month, right? So they might run out of data the last couple of days of the month. So what we found was we want to do the information, the sharing before they run out of data. So the first of the month through maybe the 10th, that's when we were saying it, so they didn't miss it at the end. So those are the two big things that we saw with it. But absolutely, if you look at it from the banking industry, you know, there's a lot of these micro banks that are taking place, especially in Africa. So that same model can be used with some of the lower income communities that are international. So absolutely, there are ways that you can do that. And I wouldn't be surprised if whoever asked the question were to connect with one of these apps or wearables saying, hey, we want to make a difference in the lives of low-income communities in Africa, that some of these companies might be willing to help sponsor that and help you. So don't be afraid to reach out.
All right, Dr. Vickey, thank you so much. Can we just remind folks one more time? So you're seeing the link on your screen for the slide deck, and how can folks get in touch with you? We know you're active on Twitter, and you have your website, so folks can visit you in those locations.
Yes, so at Ted Vickey on Twitter, my LinkedIn profile is here, so please feel free to connect with me there. And my email address is real simple. It's ted@tedvickey.com, VICKEYMOUSE. You'll never forget my name now, ted@tedvickey.com. Love to chat. I eat, sleep, and drink fitness technology.
All right, thank you everyone for attending today, and thank you, of course, Dr. Vickey, for this excellent presentation. And that concludes today's webinar. Thank you guys so much, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.